And now, Kyle and Steven present another episode of the Go F Yourself podcast. It's Fix. Really? Well, that's embarrassing. The Go Fix Yourself podcast.
Welcome to the Go Fix Yourself podcast, the podcast where Kyle and I, we don't know anything, but we're trying to learn something. And so we're fixing that by having people on that know a lot more than us. I am your co-host, Steven, and sitting to my left is...
What are you going to pick out this time? What are you going to point out? My blue?
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm very blue.
Blue Abu Dai.
Yeah.
And you got the blue light on you. Yeah, you're very just bluey.
Yeah, I just, I literally gave...
Kyle Redding.
Yeah, that's me.
That's Kyle.
Just gave the baby a bath. That was my one thing I had to do before my wife would let me come do the podcast. And so I left her in the tub and I said, honey, come get the baby. I got to go.
You beautiful-minded it.
Yeah,
Remember
exactly.
that in the movie?
And so...
Just leaves his baby in the tub.
Leaves the baby. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know? And so I threw something on and I came out here and I am excited to be here tonight. Because once again, we have another beautiful guest.
A beautiful guest.
Wow. Very beautiful, to be honest.
Wow.
And I mean, you could almost say I was coached to say that.
Oh.
I mean, nobody did, but I do need some coaching.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's talk about what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So last podcast, we had JJ on.
Yeah.
And we talked about playing hockey. Now, like I said, I didn't know anything about hockey. You know
Can
a
you
lot.
skate?
Oh, I can. I'm actually quite... Like I'm a
you're
good
gonna
skater.
throw that out there.
I'm an okay skater. I'm not like I can't do like the hard stop, But I can make my way around a rink. I'm not too shabby.
We are gonna make a video of this.
Yeah, let's.
That's like
do
everybody.
It.
I'm pretty good at golf.
And
it's like
I'm awful
you've
at golf.
never swung.
No, I am pretty good at skating. I'm gonna throw that out there. But anyway, so today we are excited because we will be talking about coaching hockey.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot that comes with it because, like I said, I didn't know anything about hockey in general. And so now I've kind of learned a little bit. But today we're actually going to be learning about like coaching a team, what it takes, but also, how to get there. And I think we're very excited. Drum roll, please, Kyle. To introduce Nick Walters.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The head coach of the Anchorage Wolverines, man.
Yes.
Yep.
Local boys.
Yes.
Yeah, a team. We'll give him a clap.
Peter, give him a clap, too. Give him a clap.
Oh,
yeah.
We got the pad going. One of those, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
The Wolverines, I have to say, I was kind of out of the loop on hockey for a while. Aces left, or kind of, we're done. And I was like, man, we don't have any sports that people are excited about besides like the Bucks and the Pilots in the summer, and that's kind of even hit or miss sometimes. And then everybody started talking about the Wolverines.
Yeah.
And so
on social media, it was a big
you guys were
frenzy.
selling out games here every week.
Yeah, I mean, we were packing the rink pretty well.
Right.
The best we could with Ben Bokey. It's obviously limited seating. And
for sure.
Last year is my first year, but man, I don't really remember a game where they weren't just jamming people around that rink and standing room only and everything else. So it's a pretty cool environment there at Bokey. So
yeah, it gets everybody because we need stuff like that. Like you were saying, the season's about to kick off.
Yep.
Winter time around here in Alaska gets dark and cold, and people need to go drink their beer somewhere. You know, they got to go do something. And watch some sports.
And you got to watch something.
You
got to
watch something so you feel less guilty about it. And what better than hockey?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. What we do every time.
Yeah.
This is,
can't skip this part.
I know. His parents.
I felt like you were gonna
thought I was gonna just steamroll.
Yeah, I was like, damn, man, they're gonna be pissed this week.
Rick and Carol would never forgive me.
Okay, so yeah, my parents who live in New York, and that's where I grew up, they listen to this podcast every week. And we do this thing where, meet my parents or introduce yourself to my parents, right? Maybe you're going to go on a double date with us, right? Me and Kyle. And so you have to talk to my parents and tell them what kind of good boy? I don't know. That's that's not
you
a
just
good
need to pitch yourself to them that we have good friends that are good people.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, geez.
Earn their keep, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
So, well, I'm the head coach of the Anchorage Wolverines, and it's a hockey team here in Anchorage. This age group is a unique age group. It's 16 to 20 years old, and it's what we call junior hockey. These young men are very ambitious, and they're trying to earn Division I scholarships to college hockey. So this is the route or the roadmap to get there. Hockey is not your traditional sport where kids just go from a high school league to college like football or basketball.
Gotcha.
All these kids go through these junior hockey leagues, and they're all over the world. We have a few in the U.S. and there's some in Canada, but there's even, countries in Europe that have junior hockey. So it's just that stepping stone to the next level.
And you said 16? So these kids that are still in high school can do juniors.
Yeah, so we don't have any 16-year-olds, but we have a couple 17-year-olds this year.
Wow.
So,
are they... what were you doing?
I was an utter loser at 17. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do.
Yeah, but these kids
that's
are
crazy.
Talented. That's the difference. It's like these kids have a future.
You son of a bitch.
Sorry, Rick and Carol. Well, I mean, that's awesome because we talked about it a little bit last week with JJ. Is just like that hockey and this whole junior level where I didn't know this, but I just assumed, just like every other sport, you're like, well, you graduate high school, and if you're talented enough, you get offered D1 or whatever.
I thought that too.
And you go right
different.
Yeah. And so is it for a certain reason? Is it the competition or mass amounts of hockey players?
Man, I just think it's been part of hockey since the beginning, I guess.
Really?
I really don't even know. Like, it's just the way it has been. Even when I was in high school, kids left to go play junior hockey.
Interesting.
The ones that were good enough, right? And it's just, I don't even know how it started or why it started, or I don't know the backstory on that. But that's just
we need to change it. No. So you were a player yourself as growing up here.
So I moved up here when I was in 5th grade, 6th grade. And that's when I kind of started. I didn't play my first year of organized hockey until 7th grade. So I was
kind of a late bloomer.
Exactly. Yeah. Very
Which
late
blows
starter.
my mind that people say that, like, at 7th grade.
You got to be skating when you're 3.
That's insane to me.
It's pretty nuts nowadays. Just the kids are on the ice early. And I certainly was a person that was always playing catch up, right? Like I was not skilled or gifted or anything, but I worked hard.
We can relate.
Exactly. So I worked hard and I really loved it. And I tell you what, like, I played baseball and every other sport when I lived in the lower 48. But once we moved up here, I loved it. And I kind of just like dropped everything else. And maybe that wasn't the smartest thing to do, but who knows? But I love the sport. So I played as long as I could, which wasn't very long, as some people, but it was all part of this journey here. So
awesome.
What did you get to in terms of playing college?
Yeah.
So you had to go through the whole thing as well.
Yep, I played 2 years of junior hockey as well. It was junior B, so it was a lower level than what I'm currently coaching now.
Gotcha.
I played a little bit in Canada, and then I played in San Antonio, Texas, and then when I went to school, I played club hockey, so it wasn't a varsity sport. It wasn't NCAA, so it was still competitive, but it wasn't, it wasn't what these kids that I'm coaching now are trying to reach.
Gotcha.
That's a whole nother level. Those guys are legit. A lot of those guys are going to play pro hockey after, and so that wasn't the level I was playing at. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So was there some sort of awakening at some point where you're like, I love this sport, but I'm not going to take it to the next level, so I want to still be involved? Is that how kind of...
No. Actually,
really?
No.
Okay.
I played as long as I could. I think it does hit you, like when you're, it hit, obviously kind of when I was playing junior hockey and then I was going on to the club level, I was like, all right, well, I got these 4 years and I'm going to go to school and just kind of figure it out, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do after school. And honestly, when I moved back up here, I was not even really involved in hockey that first year I was back. I played some beer league with some friends and stuff like that. But coaching didn't even really cross my mind. It was offered to me, but I, just started a job and I just wasn't interested in the time. And it wasn't until that next year that the same coach offered me an opportunity that, with some guilt tripping of my mother, that,
Shout out to moms.
Yeah, I didn't even again, I always played it and I liked playing. I didn't know if I would enjoy coaching, and kind of pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I was like, all right, I'll try it for a year. It was a high school season. So it's actually a pretty short season anyway. It starts in October, ends in the middle of February. So it's pretty short season. And it was at the high school that I graduated from. And so I was like, I'll try it, kind of just do it for the year. And that year, I absolutely fell in love with it. I was the head coach of the JV team, and then I would help out the varsity team with my old head coach, the guy that I played for, at Chuyak. But it was
Mustangs. We guys
Mustangs,
the old Mustangs.
Yeah,
Chuyak Mustangs.
Yeah, that team that I had, the JV team, we had like 9 kids. One of them being a goalie, so we had like 8 players, and so we didn't
line change.
Yeah,
Well, we don't have anybody.
Yeah, so just stay out there.
Yeah.
Stay out. You're gonna have to play the whole game.
Oh man,
Suck it up,
Dude.
kid.
Yeah.
You're gonna be in shape.
or dad.
Yeah,
One of the other.
One of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely loved it, and that we didn't win a lot that year, but it made a pretty big impression on me, and that's kind of just where it started.
Sure.
See,
Yeah.
I'm curious, as someone who's never coached anything in my life, like what was it that really brought you into it? And you're like, oh, this is it. This is what I've been searching for. What was the thing that connected with?
I think big part of it was I loved the game still.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I was back on the bench and just kind of being in it, the wins and the losses and the practices and trying to make players better, and I don't know. I don't know what it was exactly, but I was like, this is a lot of fun. How can I keep doing this? And even when now that I'm older and I think back to it, I'm the oldest child, I would always try to help my brothers and sisters,
so it was instinctive.
Yeah, and I'd always be at their practices. Little did I know, I wasn't coaching at that time. I was just out there because I wanted to be on the ice, right? But there is a little bit, I did coaching in college for to make money. I would do little skill sessions, or I'd run a learn to skate or learn to play at the rink there, and they'd pay me cash, and that's kind of how I made it. But again, that wasn't me
gave you a little bit of at least teaching ability right there, experience.
And I've always been good at building relationships and talking to people and that kind of thing. But it was funny, I never did that because I loved coaching. It was okay, how can I make some beer
scratch.
money?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but it's funny to think about. It's I've been doing this for a lot longer than you think, in just a weird roundabout way, right? As an older sibling, and then obviously the stuff through college. But to answer your question, I don't know what that spark was. I think it's, for me, helping people achieve their goals is probably the most rewarding thing to me currently. And I'm sure it's tied into that somehow.
It's a very selfless goal.
Yeah, the one thing I always think about is, again, I've never done coaching, but I've played a lot of sports throughout my life, never to any super high level. But I always think about the coach that's never coached, especially in baseball. I think of day one.
Yeah.
He shows up and he's like, well, we're doing suicide runs. You just, you guys just run because we got to have strong legs.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit some balls at you. You better field them good. And it's how did you have some sort of teaching
syllabus?
Yeah. Did you just make it up as you went kind of thing, or just use stuff that you had been taught over time?
When I first started, it was using drills and things that I liked as a player, that the drills that I liked that the coaches would always
throw at you.
Throw at us. So I like this one. So you'd start throwing that in. But then through the years, I've been very fortunate to work with very good people. And I've learned a lot along the way, starting with my old high school coach who, I was his assistant for 3 years. And then when I moved on to UAA, working for the numerous different coaches there, and you just start picking up all these little pieces. Like I like this, I like that. I don't really love this. Like, you know what I mean? And then that over the years is kind of how I built my philosophy that I'm trying to you know, give this team, this organization. And so it's just a culmination of things that I liked from all the good people that I've worked with.
Sure.
Yeah. So I never had the syllabus, never had it's beg, borrow,
It's always
steal.
been up here.
Right,
though.
right.
Beg, borrow, steal,
Yeah.
man. So,
Well, and I mean, I that's a great way to, I mean,
That's how that's how I go through life.
stealing. Got
Mostly
that FBI?
stealing,
Yeah.
a little bit of borrowing.
Yeah. So like walk us through kind of your resume up to the point now where you're the head coach of the Wolverines, because I know you were involved in a lot of teams, weren't maybe always in a coaching role per se.
no, that's a good question. I have a pretty unorthodox.
Question.
Yeah.
Way to go, Kyle.
Yes.
You got one, baby.
Gold star for
Yeah.
Kyle.
Thanks, Bob.
I have a pretty unorthodox route. Most guys that, get these positions were ex-players at a pretty good level. Then they become an assistant coach, and then they become a head coach, and then they move on to the next level. And it's just this trajectory, right? I, coached high school hockey and did some youth hockey stuff here in town. And, I kind of realized, when I started seeing some of these jobs pop up, director of hockey operations jobs, which to be specific, I kind of wanted to how can I work in hockey and get paid for it?
Sure.
And I saw those positions as an avenue to get in, because it was it's a lot of administrative things. You're doing travel, you're doing compliance and academic stuff. You're breaking down video, so you have to be good with computers and software and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I can do all that. You know what I mean? Because I'm not getting any sort of college assistant coach job because I didn't play NCAA, and that's, that's just kind of the way it is. But that was my foot in the door. And so I did that for 4 years at UAA. And sorry to jump around here a little bit, but to back that up, while I was coaching high school hockey, I actually volunteered with UAA for 3 years, helping with video stuff.
So that's what got you in the door.
Yeah. So the director of hockey ops before me, I would help him out on game nights, doing video stuff, stat stuff, just being involved. And so when he got promoted to assistant coach, I was that head coach's first call. And so that's my foot in the door,
It's
right?
just being there.
Being there.
Yeah.
Like
He knew
Putting
who
in
I
the
was.
time.
It's connections,
the first,
right?
the first person that he
FaceTime
thinks
is what
of.
they call that. Yeah. So when you say video, both of us have experience in video, what do you mean by video work specifically?
Yeah. So when I was the director of hockey operations, it's breaking down the opponent, essentially.
So watching old tapes of them.
It would be, so if we're playing Bemidji State this weekend, I'm watching their last 4 games, and I'm tagging it for the coaches and distributing it to the coaches and what their needs were.
So certain plays or strategies.
If they did the flying V.
Yes, all of it.
That was
That,
what
that
they
was
were-
my first
I was gonna
question
say.
to JJ last week. I was like, so when do you guys do the flying
do you do the V?
When do you start training for that?
Who starts it? Is
Yeah.
there a signal?
Is Emilio there?
Yeah.
Where does he come in?
Yeah. I
so
can get into all the hockey jargon, but it's everything. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
whether we see plays or it's certain systems that we call it, so forechecks and breakouts and
Man,
stuff like that.
so you can spot that stuff.
Goals, you get pretty good at it, right? When I first started, I wasn't great at it, but you just kind of get pretty good at
Seeing
breaking it
trends
down,
and
yeah.
all
right?
that. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so I did that for 4 years, and then one of the coaches that I worked for, we had an assistant coach leave. He was going to promote me to assistant coach. Well, he did, but that was also the COVID year, and then the year that our hockey team kind of got the axe put to us a little bit by the administration. They wanted to cut hockey, ski, and gymnastics, and so that kind of put a kibosh on that year for me. And thankfully the program's back. But during that year after COVID hit, again through connections and kind of finding that one thing that I can be really good at, which was the video. I got an opportunity to work with our U.S. women's national team, and I got to go to the World Championships in Calgary, and I also was part of their staff going to the 2022 Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did for that year.
okay.
Yeah, and I was the video coach. And so it's the same thing, breaking down opponents, and during in-game, you're breaking down the game live for the coaches.
Oh.
Yeah. So when you're going to the intermission, they have play that back or whatever they want to see. Assistants usually want to watch power play or penalty kill. Head coach usually wants to see goals against, that kind of thing. And then you're also the guy in charge of, replay stuff. So that was my role.
You were doing that live?
The replay?
During
the play, because you can do coaches challenges. So I had a guy that would help me out, and we would tag team it.
I'm just curious, as a video guy, how did you do that so fast? Was there some kind of software?
Yeah, so
Is it like specific for sports?
The replay software? Yeah. So it was like sport specific, and we had this giant monitor, and there's we could pick up to 28 different camera views if we really wanted. But what we'd do is kind of select the ones where you challenge as a coach, right? And so he was on the replay, and I'd be tagging, and I would say, hey, double check this or that. And so that's how we kind of did it. He was always watching certain things while I was kind of watching the game live.
So what would be a challenge that you would typically see? Because nothing comes to mind when I think that.
So offside.
Okay, offside
is a big one. Goaltender interference, but offsides is the big one.
I was going to say, that's the only one that comes to mind is goaltender, being crease.
Me too.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I was going to say that, actually.
Yeah.
You took it right out of my mouth.
Yeah. So, but offsides is the big one.
Okay, as someone who's sitting in the back, and you're basically these guys are waiting on video. Is it kind of stressful? I feel like that would be pretty stressful, and be like, whoa, you get that? You got that?
Yeah, there's some stress there, and I've definitely fucked it up a few times. I've gone into.
I would imagine.
Nick, where's the play?
Yeah, so technology.
God damn it!
Which play?
Technology, technology is great until it doesn't work.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I would lose video feeds sometimes, and the screen would go black, and you're like, uh-oh.
Sinking feeling.
And you go in, you miss, and then the goal horn sounds, and you're like, oh no. And you go into the locker room, and you're like, I don't have it.
I have it right here. It's
But so there's some stress because people are counting on you, right? And then, we're all competitive too, right? We all want to win, and so we all want to have that part in helping the team have some success. But yeah.
What was the Olympic vibe like? Was that much different?
You got to go to the Olympics?
I went to the Olympics in Beijing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool to.
What a cool
kind
honor
of a weird
experience.
Kid from UAA, worked for UAA, went to that. But again, it's connections and becoming really good at a certain thing, video, and breaking down opponents that people need. And again, that's just my foot in the door. It was never really my end goal, but it's something I knew I had to do for a while to maybe get some opportunity down the road. But yeah, just connections and hard work and becoming really good at something. And they needed someone, and
how did you even this is crazy to me, but your name just came up, I know a video guy.
Well, yeah. So because the women's hockey schedule is a little bit different than the men's. So the women usually play their world championships in April, May. Well, most people that year were still in their college hockey seasons. Mm-hmm. My college hockey season got canceled because of COVID, because, traveling out of state, and what if kids get sick, and how do we quarantine? And then it becomes this money problem, right? My seat, I didn't have anything to do. So there wasn't very many people available.
Oh, interesting.
So it was kind of okay, I guess we'll take this guy.
We could take Nick. He's missed a few plays, though, the last game, but he'll do. He said the screen went black, whatever. He's a liar.
So the guy that had the job before me got a job in pro hockey, and he was like, well, I know this guy. He's available, and he's pretty good. And then a good friend of mine who's also an Anchorage guy works for USA Hockey. He's their big, he's one of their main goaltending coaches. And so, he also vouched for me, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna love this guy." So I had two guys on the inside that vouched for me.
That's awesome.
Again, connections, right? And so I go there. I do really well during the whole training camp process. We're about to leave for the World Championships, and then they cancel it and reschedule it later in August. They still wanted me a part of that. I go, we do the World Championships in Calgary, And, they decided after that, it was almost like a tryout period for a month. And, the head coach was like, yeah, I want this guy back. And so I was with the team, from September through the end of February there. Yeah.
Wild ride.
Wild ride. Yeah. Yeah. Wild ride. It was an interesting year with COVID was a weird time, man.
Sure.
And then getting over to Beijing, there's a lot of COVID restrictions. And so that Olympic vibe you were asking about was probably not a real Olympic vibe. I think I was at a very different Olympics. So.
Yeah, Olympic Village wasn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was the village a little different for that?
Yeah, we were all masked. Yeah, we were on what they call the closed loop system, so I couldn't just go out and.
Which is the bubble.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk around the block in China and go see kind of like experience being in a different country
that
or
makes
anything.
Sense.
Yeah,
that's a bummer, but I mean, it's still cool that you got to experience it.
Honestly, it's. I'll probably never get to do anything like that again in my lifetime, right? Like,
you're building your connections. Come on, man.
Most people that we know, and us included, will never get to do that.
I may go to the Olympics one time.
I doubt it. For what? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Beer Olympics.
Yeah, that would be me more than
a video guy. I'm going to be a video
golf.
Guy.
Actually, you would
golf. I'm going to go in
golf.
20 years.
He is a great golfer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as sports, I couldn't do it. I could do beer. Golf, for sure.
I could be a caddy. So that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you had the season with the U.S. Women's National Team.
Yep.
And you went to the Olympics. Fucking
Correct.
awesome.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's after that?
Well, so I kind of had a decision to make, if I wanted to keep going down this path, this video coach path, right? There was some opportunity in pro hockey, and ultimately, it didn't feel right for whatever reason.
You listened to your gut.
Yeah, a little bit, and conversations with my wife, and that none of those routes really seemed right. And then there was one opportunity that we were pretty excited about, and I was going down that road, and then I got a call in the middle of August saying, "Hey, we're not hiring this job anymore." So at that point, hockey's ramping up. We started middle of August essentially, here with the Wolverines this year. And so I'm kind of thinking oh man, I might not be coaching or doing anything with I'm looking at being a substitute teacher and maybe going back to school to be a teacher or something like that. And I reach out to all the guys here in town with the different organizations.
How old were you at this point?
This was just last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was, I was 34 going on 35.
Yeah, you're my age. Okay.
Yeah. So this was just recent. I reach out to Keith Morris, who's the GM of the team. And at first he's like, yeah, I don't think I have anything. And then all of a sudden, he just called me back. Hey, our head coach got a college job. We're promoting our assistant coach. We'd like you to be the assistant coach. And so it was kind of weird how, again, connections, and weird how it just kind of worked out super last minute.
Holy crap. Yeah. It's that's with the movies is the clock's ticking and you're like, I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden it works out for the better. That's cool.
When did this call come in?
It was end of August.
So right when the season was.
Right about this time of year. Really.
Damn, and you did say before we even recording, you're we're well into it already.
Yeah, I mean, we're in week 2. I came in about a week before we went on our first road trip, which is about right now.
Oh, wow.
And so, just kind of, the whole saying everything happens for a reason. I guess it surely does, but that's, I spent the last year as the assistant coach, and then our old head coach got an opportunity at the next level, and I'm very fortunate to have gotten to be the third head coach of this organization. So,
moving on up.
Yeah. Very sweet.
Yeah, so weird path. Again, not very traditional, but I guess it makes it more fun.
That's what makes the fun. It's a better story too.
Yeah.
It kept me engaged, and I'm like I said, I don't really know hockey, but I was like, oh, what happens next?
Yeah,
they have video. I'm in.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I did perk up.
Yeah,
I did perk up.
So now that you're the head coach, are the players ever always changing year to year, or is there players that play multiple years on the team?
Both. I mean, there is an age out process, right?
Right.
So kids born in 2003 this year, this is their last year they're eligible to play.
Whoa.
Right.
So it's 20 and that's it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So this year we have 5,
can do math.
6, 7. We have about 7 or 8 returners.
Mhm.
All right, and the rest of them they're new guys.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So
mostly local.
we have a few local guys, but mostly from out of state.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have kids from all over the world. Actually, we got a kid from Finland, a kid from Japan. We have a kid from Belarus. Got kids from Minnesota, Wisconsin. We have a handful of Alaskans, some California kids, all over the place.
How do they hear? I mean, I know I feel weird saying this, but like, how do they hear about Alaska team?
So
Like,
you-
be like,
Tinder
this is the
for
place.
junior-
Yeah, no,
Junior teams.
not quite. We actually have a
No.
procurement process.
Okay. Yeah.
Where we can tender players, which is essentially handing them a piece of paper. They sign it, and that means that they're our property, or they can't try out
like
for
that.
any other.
All right. For
it's an
people just
IOU.
listening and not watching, he did hand quotes. All right,
Yeah.
our property. All right.
We own them.
Yeah.
So
I always feel weird about saying that, but
Right, right.
essentially they just can't try out for another team.
Well, I mean, same thing with like, I mean, JJ was like, basically these people will play or pay a lot of money for these people, and so he was an enforcer, and so he's like, take care of our property. Like that's
Yeah.
basically what his job was. He said
yeah.
that, so it's common. So,
you
yeah.
give them like a promise ring kind of thing.
Kind of like, hey, we want you on the team, but yeah. And then we have a draft. No different
Really?
than a sports draft. So there's our GM goes out and scouts a lot. We have guys around in some certain areas that help us scout to identify talent and players that we'd be interested in, and then that draft is in June, and you draft the remainder of your team there.
So is there any type of compensation for these kids? Like the kid from Finland's coming over
Yeah.
here, and like expenses and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, here you go.
Yeah, so we give him gear
Sure.
and the things that he needs to do to play, but we can't compensate
Right.
him obviously because they're trying to play college hockey, and so
The rules are very
the rules, that'd be considered professional, even though some of these, the name, image, likeness thing is a completely different ball game now, but that's another story.
Yeah.
That's another podcast. But they have to pay like a billet fee because they stay with families while they're here, host families, and they pay a fee to that family, which is, I don't even know what it is, but essentially it helps with food and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, they don't have any other expenses from our end. We handle the travel, we handle food on the road.
Okay.
We give them the gear. So that's
And they're on their way to like where they want to go.
they're on their way. We're gonna have, I think, quite a few players commit to Division I college
Dang,
hockey this
that's
year.
cool.
We already have 3 that are currently committed. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's big.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I know that.
like I'm
D1.
D1. Is
That's
that
the thing
Is that
people
good?
say. It's
Yeah.
very good, Kyle.
I've
It's
seen
very good.
D2. I've seen D3.
No, D1's the best.
So when you are wearing your coaching hat and you're getting, now that you're the head coach and you have new players coming in, I imagine the first kind of thing is trying to get everybody to
Team bonding.
gel.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, you have some Alaskans, you have European, you have all sorts of people coming together, and you're like, hey, we're trying to build a team here that they may have aspirations for D1, but you're trying to do a good season here with the Wolverines.
Yeah, so that's a big thing for me, and obviously the first step's going out and finding good kids that have some talent, right? You need good players. But I believe that you have to have a locker room that loves each other to be successful, right? They got to want to play for each other. And we're in an interesting age where, there is some, I don't want to use the word ego, but they're trying to take care of themselves. They're trying to reach that next step. And I get it. And so the big thing that we preach, though, is like, if our team has success, everybody individually is going to have success.
Yeah.
And, when I was at UAA, we wanted to recruit from winning teams. Like we wanted to recruit those guys because they're usually just a higher caliber player. And so I kind of relate my experience from being at that college level to these guys and hoping that they trust you, that like, if we start having some team success, there's going to be more eyes on you than you think. And so I think getting that cohesive piece where everybody's playing for each other is super important.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's the more wins you guys have, then obviously schools will start looking at that team and seeing what is causing the wins.
Yeah.
And then those guys, I mean, it all makes sense. It's kind of like, I think of our background would be probably more being in bands and music and stuff like that. And you always have like the lead singer or the guitarist that wants to like show off. And it's
Metallica looking down and being like, you.
Well, you want the band to do well so that you get better shows.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't want it to be about one person that's got an ego. You want to do well together. So
exactly.
get the bigger shows.
So I'm kind of curious as like, kids, and Kyle, you touched on this, is like kids, like they're like, I don't know, meetups or exercises. Like, what is it exactly that like, you give to these kids to like gel and to love each other?
Some of it comes from the room itself. Like last night, the whole team went out and I guess there's a new Will Ferrell movie out.
The dogs or something.
I don't even know what it is, but they all went and watched it last night.
Gotcha.
Which I thought was pretty cool because that happened from within the room, right? I didn't have to say, hey, go watch a movie with each other. They
all wanted to hang out with each other already.
Are kind of doing it already, but something, that we're doing this week actually is on Friday. We're going on Elmendorf and we're meeting with one of the F-22 groups. And we're going to talk about, teamwork and sticking up for each other, communication, all these different things. There's a lot of parallels, I believe, from military groups
I would imagine,
to athletes when it comes to tactical things, right? And so,
and discipline. And there's like, there's a lot.
There's a lot. Like, so we're getting that set up, which I think will be really cool for the guys. And it's a great bunch of guys.
You don't get to take an
on
F-22 up, do you?
They let each player fly one.
People do that, dude.
It's pretty wild.
People do that. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get in that one. I think that one's like a top secret one. So won't get that.
Damn, that's cool.
That high.
But So and it's a single seater, so they'd have to trust us.
Exactly.
We're like, well, go for it, guys. It's $13 million.
Yeah,
At least.
Yeah, I think it's way more than that. But
that's the seat.
Yeah,
that's the probably.
There's it's 13 million, guys.
Yeah.
Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. I watched Top Gun.
And then this weekend we're gonna go on a camping trip.
Oh, cool.
Camping trip. It's
glamping.
Again, for the people listening, he did hand quotes.
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's a
RVs.
One of our owners has a piece of land or however on Big Lake. So we're just gonna bring our tents and pitch it in the lawn.
Oh, hell yeah.
Of their cabin. So there's like a cabin with facilities and stuff like that, but we're still sleeping in tents. So.
Yeah.
But it's like, the guys.
So I get it.
Yeah.
The glamping.
Yeah.
Like
glamping. Right?
That's the one thing too. Every time I go out to Big Lake and I'm like, because my wife, she grew up on Big Lake and I didn't. And so I had to go meet her friends. And I'll tell you, that's the best place to fucking bond with people you don't know or you want to know better. And it's like, you're just on the water or you're swimming or you're just hanging out.
Everybody's got money.
Everybody's got money. But yeah. It's always like like every time I go out there, I'm always like, oh, this is a new group. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And then by the first night, you're like, this is the best. I love these guys. Yeah. I am in love. Yeah. So I get that. That'll be fun. So you do have like, you plan events, you kind of do certain things, but then I think that's kind of cool how they're already 2 weeks in.
Yeah, not even 2 weeks,
and they're already being like, "Let's go out and hang out."
And so I think we got what seems like a really good group so far, like
cool.
A good returners. So guys I had last year, kind of helping, blend that all together. So
interesting.
Yeah.
What's your expectation of somebody that's coming to join the team in terms of like? Obviously, you've got them because of their skill set, but I mean, there's the fitness aspect of it.
Yep.
There's the
personality. Even.
Well, I think of somebody that has a lot of talent that doesn't put in a lot of work.
Yeah,
where it's like you kind of get undersold when they get here, and you're like you kind of been slacking off. Like, how would you deal with that, or have you dealt with that with players?
Well, I haven't dealt with it yet.
Right?
But I think. Something that I've tried to do and something that I've met with players about is setting standards, right? High standards. And I think it's part of my job and my staff's job to hold these young men accountable, because we got to remember they are still just young men. They need structure, right? And I think when you set that bar high and you hold them to it, hopefully you don't have anybody that falls behind.
Sure.
And if you do, I'm hoping that maybe one of the older guys brings them along, or maybe we need to give them an extra kick in the ass or whatever it is. And the not so glamorous part about junior hockey is if, kids don't figure it out, or it's something that, maybe they are just falling too far behind and we don't feel that we can help them. We do
Gotta boot him.
You got to cut
boot
them.
them, right?
Yeah.
I
Because we want to make sure that
feel that way about him sometimes.
Yeah.
I've
been
been
pulling
pick up the
my weight.
slack there,
Yeah.
bud.
Yeah.
You kind of been falling
it's
behind.
not the most fun part of the job, but it does happen, you
Sure.
know, because there's a lot of kids chomping at the bit to be in these positions, which I believe is an extra motivator for these guys, because they know that they're in a pretty good situation here.
Yeah, because they could. I mean, that is one thing. It's funny because I'm thinking about the band, because I feel like that's probably our experience with working as a team.
Yeah.
Right. But like, there's nobody lighting a fire under our ass.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, well, if I don't do good at this show, there's nobody going to be behind me. They're going to keep me like losers. They're stuck with me. But for these kids, and it's like, first off, you have a goal.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to play D1.
Yeah.
But also, it's like you got a line of other people. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine it's an excellent motivator.
Yeah, and I want to make it very clear. It's not like I threaten kids with that. Like, hey, if you don't pick it up,
I don't threaten.
There was no air quotes there. There was no air. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to give up on a kid.
Right.
You know, because like I said, they're still young men. They need structure and they need guys holding them accountable. And so, first and foremost, that's, our job as coaches to keep those guys motivated and keep them going. It's a long season. Guys are going to hit, guys are going to kind of go up and down, and they're going to hit lulls, and it's, it's bringing them back out. And that's where I think having a strong team chemistry, I'm a big team guy. Like I don't think I'd ever be really good. Well, I'm not really any good at individual sports. I like having the pressure of knowing people are counting on me. And I think a lot of team guys are probably just like coordinated like that. Right. And so, but yeah, so we got to keep them motivated too, and help them out of those ruts if we feel like they're maybe, falling behind.
I get that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So, you're in a position that we've never been in, like we've already stated, but like, what is it actually like? What do you do on a normal day?
Yeah. So these last 2 weeks have been very different than what I've been doing through the summer. A lot of the summer is like administrative type things. Booking all our travel, hiring an assistant coach, doing stuff like that. May and June was like finding players that we wanted to draft. And now it's, meeting with my coaches every day, and we're talking, how do we want to play? And like, I have a lot of that already like in my mind, but now it's inviting everybody to the conversation and putting together good practice plans, putting together good video clips to show the guys examples of how we want to do things. It's, honestly, it's talking with the guys every day, being in the locker room with them and kind of just seeing how things are going. How are the billets? How are, how's this? How's that? Getting to know these guys and building those relationships. It's, it's the on ice stuff. It's the, I don't do any of the off ice training. What
do you mean by that? On ice, off
like
ice? Strength
and conditioning would be
gotcha.
off ice, right? We outsource that, but it's making sure that those guys are in there, taking advantage of that resource. So that's kind of what my day to day has been the last 2 weeks. Yeah. And so, it's, it's not bad. So
I'm also curious, you said like you have it in your mind. You already know, like, when you sit down with your coaches, how many coaches do you have?
I have 2 assistants.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 assistants. So you sit down with these guys. I'm assuming they're guys. My bad. And, but you're sitting down with them and you're like, all right, this is what I have in my mind. How do you come up with that?
Yeah. So that kind of goes back to my conversation of working for a lot of good people and kind of taking things that they did. So one of my biggest mentors was Matt Curley, who I worked for 3 years at UAA. And just a lot of the things that I learned from him and a lot of things he taught me are actually things that I teach. I just kind of believed in what he was doing, like even then I had some philosophies where I was like, why don't people do it like this? And he was doing those things. And so like, that really resonated with me. And then other guys like Matt Thomas, who was also at UAA, Louis Mass, who's a local guy that was at UAA, now coaching pro hockey. All those guys were just resources. And so you just kind of piece it together with like, this is how I would want a team to play. And so it's not right or wrong. It's just a lot of teams play the same. And guys have the same philosophies, but yeah, it's just, I've been influenced by the people I've worked with.
Well, I'm sure that's got to change too over time because it's a lot of testing and
For
trial
sure.
and error and
Yeah.
stuff works this with these guys and doesn't
Yeah.
work with the next year or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I was thinking about that. So besides the two assistant coaches, like what makes the umbrella of like who you're in charge of? Because like you said,
Organization.
you got strength and training. Like there's a lot of aspects of people that
Yeah.
probably are part of the team.
I don't know.
Trainers.
I don't know if I'd say I'm in charge of anybody.
sorry. Yeah.
But
In
no,
charge.
In
yeah.
our minds, you are.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
You're the man.
we have a lot of resources. Obviously, I have 2 assistant coaches. We have Elite Sports Fitness, who does our strength conditioning.
yeah.
And so Billy over there does a great job. And I kind of let him just do his thing. It's
Gotcha.
a different voice. It's a different coach.
Yeah.
So I try not to step on any toes or, you know what I mean? Like, let those guys be with them. And,
So
he
you
does
don't
a
go
good
over to
job.
Billy and be like, well, I think they should work on triceps today or whatever.
No, I let him do his thing, but we do communicate. Like if, hey, I had a long practice on ice today, just so you know. So he knows how to kind of,
Okay.
we don't want to kill the guys either, right?
Yeah.
So there is a rest and recovery component to it. And like, so we try to feed off of each other. If he hits it hard, big leg day in the gym, right? Well, now I know if the guys are a little bit sore the next day and you can kind of cater to that, or maybe I don't want to, say lower your expectations, but maybe know if someone just doesn't have the gas in the tank, right? So, so we work with him. We work with people from OPA. They're our athletic trainers. So if someone gets injured, they're helping us out. And so in constant communication with them, like if guys are getting a little banged up or issues that are going on. And then we have a group of volunteers that help us out too. We have a guy that does the video stuff, right? And so he volunteers his time on game days.
An old you.
Yeah, an old me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we couldn't run as an organization without these awesome resources and then the individuals that volunteer their time, because obviously it's their help is greatly appreciated.
It's an amazing, like, first off, it's like your social media, right? You see a lot of things even when you're not at the games. And so it's like there's a lot of like shit moving, making this like whole thing go.
Totally.
And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy. And so in my head, I'm always like, I don't even know how I would lead the team, let alone
They already
the
got
whole thing.
They already got a video guy. You can't come on board.
Fuck.
Okay, so you're sorry. So when you're like at practice, are you out there on skates with the guys?
Yep.
And so I think about that because
I will slice you in the throat with my skate.
yeah.
You better get back out there.
I think of you as being maybe on the younger age of a coach, or are you kind of like right in the median kind of idea?
It's I would think I'm kind of on the younger side.
Yeah.
There's
Kyle, sorry to interrupt, but Kyle was like, oh, he's like 26.
No, I
27.
said 29 is
Whatever.
what I saw.
I was like, wow, okay, so he's really young.
Yeah,
but
no, I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
But I think I'm still on the younger side.
I would agree.
There's actually in our league, there's a lot of guys around my age, like the 35, 36, 37. There might be, I think the new Minnesota Wilderness coach is a little bit younger than I am, a couple
okay.
years. So I'm certainly not the youngest,
So like
but
30.
I feel like there's this group of us that are kind of around in these early to mid 30s.
Well, I feel like coaching has always been kind of like a older thing to do, but nowadays with the ability to learn so much more, so much quicker, like you've kind of walked us through, it's like you're much more ready to do that at a younger age than having to be,
Yeah.
20 years of experience.
Well,
of something.
staffs have grown.
Yeah.
Right. And so even if you look at like football and all the different
the football
Yeah.
coaches.
quality
Yeah.
control specialists and all the staffs have grown, so it's created more opportunity, and more opportunity gets more people in the door.
Yeah.
If they didn't have that director of hockey ops job or those volunteer positions, I might not be here.
Yeah.
Right? So that's probably the way I would look at it. But yeah, there's just more opportunity for people to learn and kind of climb the ranks a little bit.
I think also, I mean, it probably is really cool for your players to have someone closer to their age, I would imagine.
I think so, because I do like to joke around with them, and
And they probably love that.
Yeah, like you don't want to be a hard ass all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that. There's a time and a place where maybe you have to be, but no, it's fun getting to know the guys, and they certainly keep me young, and it's fun to joke around with them, and I think they enjoy that too. They don't want to play for a guy that they're
old curmudgeon.
scared of, or like just can't really relate to or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
That's where I was kind of going with that question. It's like when you're out there on the ice with them, is there ever kind of like the young buck kind of like be like, I can show you how to do this, or and then they're like, well, coach, I just wonder about that power struggle a little bit on the ice, and then if you got to like kind of lay down the law and hip check them, or what you got to do. So.
yeah. Well, there's no abuse going on the ice. I don't hit anybody.
I don't know what it is about abuse. It's very dark humor, and we apologize.
I don't really feel that there is a power struggle. I think,
Sure.
I'd like to think I have the respect of the guys, right? Like the returners know me from last year, and I have good relationships with them, and I think that's a big part of it in terms of like not having a power struggle is building those relationships and letting those guys get to know you. So like every player that we tendered or drafted this year, I called them like right away and like, hey, congratulations, it's a big deal, nice to meet you, and I would text with them or call them throughout the summer and kind of slowly build those relationships. So by the time they got here, it's not like I haven't talked to any of these guys.
Sure.
It's
You've
not
already
like
built something.
I've built something, and so like I've kind of already planted that seed of trust. And I think that helps with the whole respect thing, or the, you know what I mean? They trust you. And so then when you start doing, the drills or whatever, I think that because that relationship's there, that trust is there. Right.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, first off, okay. I think, I'm pretty good on like, the coaching players. Now, I don't know about you if you have more questions, but for me, I'm now curious about like what it means to be a coach for you. So like during a game, are you like one of those coaches that is like, just like you angry, you get into it, or you're just like, all right, guys. I mean, like here's
Throwing
another
the
thing.
clipboard.
Yeah. Like to fire the guys up, you get angry, or, after, in the locker room and it's like, all right, guys, like, let's get out there. Or are you like, let's freaking go, So like, where do you find that balance between like firing up, but also getting angry? Do you get angry? Do you let them see you angry? Like, that's a whole other different story. I think
there's a big psychology kind of piece to that. I think on the bench, I try to stay calm and collected. Like a big thing that I tell these guys, because sometimes they get frustrated when they don't make the play and they're slamming their sticks, and never let them see a sweat. Right? Don't let the opponent know you're frustrated. You just got to keep playing, right? And so I kind of try to take that same mentality for myself, especially on the bench. Like, refs are going to make the wrong call. Things aren't going to go your way. We're going to have turnovers, right? We're going to get scored on. Like, all that's like, it's going to happen. So why, I'm not a throw your clipboard in the air or berate and yell at a guy or anything like that. Like, and it's kind of situational too. Like if there is an instance where you got to stick up for a player, maybe there was a cheap shot and someone could have gotten hurt. I think maybe it's, you got
a worthy cause.
You got to let the players know you're sticking up for them. You got their backs too. But on the bench, I try to stay more calm and collected and motivated.
Mystery.
And coaching guys up, like answering questions, coaching them up, staying positive, staying motivated on the bench. In the room, I think it's more of the same. Is there things we want to change tactically? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes maybe they, like you said, they probably need a kick in the ass here and there.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not kicking the door down, throwing trash cans, but I think there's you maybe take a different tone with them to let them know, like, hey, we got to pick it up. And so, again, these are all like situations I haven't been in yet. So I'll let you know on the next podcast.
Yeah. We'll have to do one after the season.
Postseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like, so how did it go?
Well, I got gray hair now.
Did you hit a kid?
Yeah. My hairline receded about 4 inches. Yeah. That's what a couple things I always think of, like with hockey culture and stuff that I meant to ask JJ, but you would know just as well, is what is with players and coaches always wearing suits when they're not suited up to play?
Yeah.
Like, is that like a traditional thing that?
Very traditionalist.
Yeah. And does that come from just back in the day? You're professional. You need to be.
It was something that it's very traditional. I don't know if I'm like, I'll wear a suit.
Right.
And I don't mind doing it sometimes, but I'm also not opposed to not wearing a suit. Like, I'll wear some different, it gets cold in some of these rinks. So I'll just go pea coat and, collared shirt or whatever. Like,
Classy.
Yeah, like my big thing for the players, just like, hey, look sharp.
Right.
Don't come in tennis shoes and look like you just rolled out of the fart sack and combed your hair with the pork chop. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, look.
Yes, the fart sack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that, right? Look like a pro. And so like some of these guys, they come with their like little scally caps, or fedoras or whatever, and they are wearing, plaid suits or whatever, or the turtlenecks with chains.
Oh,
That's a big thing now. Half these kids look ridiculous. But
first off, you said fedoras, you said turtleneck with chain.
Yeah.
Like, do those go together? No. Not from my standpoint.
That was my Friday.
I don't wear I don't wear any of those, but half the guys look ridiculous, but that's just how the kids.
That's the style.
I hope they listen.
Yeah.
You're ridiculous.
Oh, I will tell them right to their face too. I was like, what is going on here?
Nice fedora.
But when you will look at some of these pros, when they got the camera on them as they're walking into the arena, like that's what the guys are wearing, like, and so they the kids want to be like that.
And have that swag. Yeah,
so
I get that.
I just look sharp,
Yeah.
And so
wear Go Fix Yourself merch.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, we're gonna sponsor the Wolverines.
We should.
And another thing, like whenever I'm watching hockey, and like you kind of mentioned this, is I guess whenever the TV coverage moves to the coach and the bench and stuff, I never see the coach often talking to the players. It's always kind of, in passing.
Yeah.
And so like, what is a conversation that you would have with a player that's on the bench, like waiting to go out for his line or something? Is it stuff that you notice is like, hey, this guy's making you look like a fool? And I saw him in a fedora last week. Okay. Like what are you saying to them to like,
I think sometimes the guys have questions, and so you're answering those questions. But oftentimes it's if you saw something last play, and I try to give positive feedback just as much as teaching feedback, right?
Sure.
So like if I see something good that they did, it's like, hey, awesome pass you made here, but next time, let's make sure we're keeping an eye on this, right? It doesn't always have to be teaching or negative feedback. It could be things that you're doing well too. But a lot of it's just instruction, right? I'm not a big yeller of instruction from the bench because like they don't hear you. Like they're so in the zone. But like it's when they come back to the bench, it's like, if a mistake was made or if there's something, you're given that feedback right away, so maybe they can correct it and be better that next shift.
What question do they ask you?
They might,
it's like, am I doing it right, coach?
Yeah, so a good example would be if we get scored on.
Okay.
So last year I was, I'd handled the defense. It was kind of my in-game responsibility. So we get scored on. The big question was like, what happened there, coach?
Gotcha.
Well,
you saw the big picture.
So-and-so missed his assignment. This guy kind of went down, blah, 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 blah. So kind of explaining different situational things to them. It's everything, it's, maybe breakdowns in their play, but then it's positive things too, right? You want to make sure you're reinforcing the good stuff because then they're going to go do it again.
Yeah.
One thing I always have to remember about like sports in general. Like when you watch basketball, you watch football, hockey, all these sports is you always are watching it on TV from an aerial view.
Yeah.
Where you get to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And when you're a player, it's very POV.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense. Like when you said that with like, what happened there, coach?
Yeah.
It's like you have a view from the bench to be able to kind of see what went wrong.
That's a great point. So when I was a video coach and I would sit down with players and watch video with them, it would always turn into conversation because what the player sees on the ice is very different than what the coaches see on the bench. It's even more different when I was an eye in the sky and I had that aerial view and I was seeing the whole thing happen.
Yeah.
Like you can see all 10 players on the ice and you can, the vantage points are so different. And so, we miss things on the bench too. Like players see different things than we do. And so sometimes it's, you can't get on a player about everything because it's like, well, I saw this. And it's like, well, they're playing the game and you got to trust that they're going to make the plays, right? You got to let them play a little bit. Mistakes are going to happen, right?
Sure.
Can't be perfect. And so you got to trust that, they're making plays and they're seeing the right things too. It's, I think the coaching really happens when you start to see habits, of continual the same mistake, and then that's where you kind of coach it up a little bit more. But I do believe you got to let them go out and make some mistakes, and let them play the game. It's a fast game; it changes direction quickly. So you just got to they're the ones out there,
right?
So let them make let them play.
Let him play.
Let them play. And then how many times do you guys watch Miracle?
I'm probably a terrible coach. Yeah, I don't coach them up at all. Just let them play. They make mistakes.
I actually don't.
Make this.
I don't say a word to these kids.
I think I love that style though.
Well, if you made a mistake every time, like everybody always makes. If you heard about every mistake you heard in a game, like you got to think about that. It's just like Jesus Christ, I'm not doing anything right out there. You know what I mean? So like, I also think guys know when they fuck up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when there's when there's a big assignment missed and we get scored on, guys know.
Yeah.
I don't need to go down to him. Well, you missed your thanks a lot, coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's situational awareness as a coach. It's kind of knowing when to kind of step in and say something, maybe just laying off. You know what I mean? It's a time and place thing.
Yeah, I mean, like even I think back to like when I played sports and like my soccer coach was like one of those like screamy guys.
Yeah.
And then he would yell. I mean, it's funny. It was a Christian homeschool fucking team. So, but he was
your dad?
No. He was like my buddy's dad.
Yeah.
But like he would get so angry. And then like if we did something wrong or like, made a misstep, this one time, like I was a, midfielder and like the defense were just kicking the ball between them and then made a goal on our side. And he got so angry. And even though they were doing their best, but it didn't help anybody, right? And he took all them out and, substituted anybody. And so it's like, then I had the coach where, they would be like, you know what, you tried. And that always stuck with me more than the screamy guy did. Yeah.
And I think different people are wired differently too. Yeah. Like, I don't know, in a weird way, like I responded well to getting yelled at when I played, and so
it lit a fire under you.
Yeah, a little bit. Like,
okay.
So you gotta, again, that's coaching though, right? And knowing how guys are wired and who you can really push and what buttons to push, and everybody's different as well.
Everything you're saying right now kind of reminds me of stuff that I've read about parenting, which is really weird.
I was gonna say there's got to be some similarity.
Like we're dealing with a teenager and 13, and so
he's a parent. I'm not.
And
I'm not a parent either.
So we have me and mom have these discussions about a lot of things that we'd like to see changed in the teenager, and it's like we read you shouldn't really pick apart everything they're doing because they're going to feel like they're not doing anything right. You know, please don't do this. Please don't do that. This.
And you're like,
it's easy
you're
when they're
not doing anything right.
Well, right. When you're 13, like you're making a lot of decisions that aren't usually well thought out. And so it's like we've agreed to like pick one thing at a time over the course of time to let's try to change this one little habit. And then it sounds like with players, it's like they know when they're not doing the right things. You want to say they're doing well, what they're doing well, but you don't want to tell them they're doing everything wrong because you lose them that way.
And that's why I try to, when you can, it's when you see patterns.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we correct that? Like, okay, they
Sure.
made the same mistake 3 times in a row now. Like, let's have a conversation about that. But I try to do that, the whole compliment sandwich, right? Like, hey, I love what you did here. Next time, let's do this. But hey, really nice job.
Yeah.
Cool.
Blah, blah, blah.
Your turtleneck was killer last week.
But the chain,
Yeah.
not so
Chain
much.
gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skip
You're
the
not the
fedora.
Rock.
Yeah.
You're not the Rock.
So is the wife coming to each of these games, or is she a hockey fan, or how's that?
She comes to a few. She would not be what I call a hockey fan, which I don't
Is
mind.
probably,
actually.
yeah.
Because she doesn't ask me many questions about hockey when I go home, and
Yeah, I was gonna say.
she
So you
asks
can
how
turn it off a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I don't think I have a really big problem disconnecting, like, or leaving things at the rink. You're
Right.
always thinking about.
We're not to the game season yet,
Yeah.
though, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, but I do believe in leaving that stuff at the rink. You got to have, I mean, there's a lot of coaches that probably bring that stuff home and they're just 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't really operate like that.
I don't think you should.
And, don't get me wrong, when I go home, I watch NHL games. I'm thinking about the game, but I'm not like stressing about,
What's gonna happen in
yeah,
the next
I
week?
don't.
I would imagine NHL as a watching experience is a different experience for you than it is for me, because you like did the video and so you know what you're looking for. That would probably like be way more, I don't know, invested into the game.
Yeah, my watching experience is way different. Like when I played, you're watching your favorite players and watching how
Right.
they do certain things. And then you have a favorite team. And now I don't really have a favorite team. I'm just watching
Except for the
whoever's-
Wolverines.
Yeah, except for the Wolverines.
Yeah.
I just watch whatever game's on and you're just kind of watching
The
different
strategy
things. And I love
everything.
listening. I listen to the commentators now and like what they're saying. There's some pretty good broadcast crews out there. And so, yeah, my watching experience is pretty different.
Yeah. So when you're not at the rink and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, like what do you do to get away from hockey?
I'm pretty big into like outdoors and fitness stuff. Big into mountain biking, hiking, stuff like that.
So you're in the right state.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff up here. So my wife and I do try to do a lot of stuff outdoors. I think in the wintertime it's a little bit harder, but hockey's kind of my thing in the winter.
I was gonna say,
so
yeah, you got your thing.
yeah, and then so like, when the season ends, I think you're still working and you're still thinking about the game, but on a lesser scale, right? And you got to enjoy that time away from the game. And like, I'm excited to get going now, right? Like, so our summer was a little bit, not so great with the rain or whatever, but you make the most of it.
So-so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you fisherman?
I do a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm
same.
not like, every, go out like every night, suicide runs and every weekend kind of guy. I kind of go out a few times a year and try to catch some fish, but,
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
We do like kind of a section where we're always talking about like what are you watching, reading, listening to, like
Yeah.
what's some stuff that like you're into.
And it doesn't have to be right now because I'm
Yeah.
sure you're in like full hockey mode. But
Yeah.
even like this summer or what you were like, enjoying.
I try to read.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't read. No. But like it's weird. Like I've had a hard time staying in books lately. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm a big podcast guy because you hop in the car, you listen
Yeah.
20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I love watching like sports documentaries and stuff and on Netflix or HBO or whatever it is.
Are you a big what do they call those, like mini series? Like they did F1 Drive to Survive.
I love that show.
Me too.
I love it.
The full
Swing.
full
Full Swing
swing
was
golf.
awesome.
Loved that too.
Breakpoint with the tennis.
Oh,
Outstanding.
see, and my friends, because I don't watch much sports, and all my fans are like, fantasy. They got fantasy leagues
Yeah.
or whatever they're, but like those shows, I will watch those in one sitting.
Yeah.
Because it's like not only am I finding out about the person, like and also watching games after watching that or watching like F1 or something. I'm
Yeah.
like, I know this guy. I know what he's been going through.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like same. So I love those like shows because it's the story behind the person, but also behind the sport.
No,
too.
it's fun.
So
I
good.
love that too.
Addicting.
And then it's like, all those shows, they're like the best at what they do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're at the top of the top. And so seeing those mindsets and like those, like I thought the full swing one and the tennis one were interesting because those are individual sports. And they battle with those, those thoughts inside their head. And like, they start losing a match. And then, do they kind of, is that self-talk positive or negative? I find it fascinating, like how a guy can really like pull it together and have the best round of his life, or like things just spiral out of control.
Yeah.
And it's really
like Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, for like 2 years.
Yeah,
Like,
well, it was.
I suck.
Yeah, it was like this full swing one was really interesting. You're like, holy cow! Like these guys have bad days too because they make it look really easy.
That's the thing. I think
So-
like you're like, well, I'm not so much a piece of shit. You know, like they're not so
He's
bad.
struggling too.
Yeah, he's got bad thoughts too.
He just has millions though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I guess that's a little different. Yeah. Well, we're excited for you on this season, man, and we can't wait to sit in the stands and watch you and cheer on the team. We're gonna try to make it to as many games as we can.
We should do a broadcast between the two of us.
You know how bad I would suck.
Hey, Snoop Dogg did it with the LA Kings.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
You know what? If Snoop can do it,
We got a chance. I think that was icing or offside.
yeah.
He board checked him, and
It is funny. We've had like assembly members on here, and what was it? Who was it? Someone was like, because we're not big into politics, right? When you watch an assembly thing on TV, it is the most boring thing to me, right? But like, if you had our commentary during the assembly and trying to be like, what the fuck just happened? Like, oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that glare? The right to
daggers that
Chris
they shot?
Constant,
Yeah.
something like that. And I'm like, so there was something there with like idiots who don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
I don't know. If
commentary.
hockey fans would love that one.
Probably not. But that's the thing. Hockey fans wouldn't, but maybe other fans would. So,
that's true.
no, we're excited, man. We're gonna show up. I'm excited to see
I'm
the
gonna wear my
Wolverines.
turtleneck and my fedora. Can I dress like a player?
And yeah, please do.
We'll be like, Nick. Kyle just tipped his hat.
Hello, my ladies.
Oh God. Oh man. Well, we're excited, man, and we can't wait to cheer you on, brother.
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Kyle and Steven will be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, check out GoFixYourselfPodcast.com. And remember to always go fix yourself.